Puss in Boots: The Last Wish has jumped off the counter and into the cardboard box of our hearts. 9 lives are impressive, but how about 107 facts? Well, consider your wish granted. Here are 107 facts about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Welcome to ChannelFrederator, the cartoon central of the internet. Before we begin, we publish new videos every week, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video.
Number 1. This time around, Puss in Boots has an all-new director at the helm. The Last Wish is directed by Joel Crawford. Number 2. This isn't Crawford's first outing with DreamWorks Animation. He also directed the Croods sequel, The Croods: A New Age, which came out back in 2020. He wasn't alone though. Crawford had some help from his co-director, Januel Mercado. Number 4. Like Crawford, Mercado had also worked on The Croods: A New Age. Now they've joined forces once again. Number 5. Really, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is like one big Croods reunion. The movie is produced by Mark Swift, who also produced The Croods: A New Age. He's been with DreamWorks as far back as 2004 when he worked on Shark Tale. Number 6. James Ryan was also involved with Shark Tale, but as an actor. For the newest Puss in Boots, he's putting his film editing skills to use, just like he did with, say it with me now, The Croods: A New Age. Number 7. So DreamWorks got the Croods band back together, knowing that they could do a good job on the Puss in Boots sequel. Joel Crawford said that DreamWorks was picky about how to continue Puss's story in the Shrek world. Number 8. To bring the Puss in Boots story to life, DreamWorks brought on Paul Fisher and Tommy Swerdlow to write the screenplay. Number 9. Swerdlow had created the original story that he and Fisher based their screenplay on. He developed the original story with Tom Wheeler. Number 10. Of course, when it comes to Puss in Boots, you know Tom Wheeler would be involved. He wrote the screenplay of the original Puss in Boots movie that was released back in 2011. I know, I can't believe it either. It's been a whopping 11 years since Puss in Boots got his first spin-off in the Shrek universe. Number 12. This 11-year gap means that the Puss in Boots movies have a distinct honor among DreamWorks films. They have the longest release time between sequels. Number 13. Before Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, DreamWorks' previous record holder was the 7+ years between the first Croods movie in 2013 and The Croods: A New Age in 2020. Number 14. While The Last Wish is only the second Puss in Boots film, it's actually the 6th film in the entire Shrek franchise. You've got the 4 Shrek films and of course the original Puss in Boots. Number 15. Technically, there is a Puss in Boots short film called Puss in Boots: The Three Diablos. The 13-minute short film was released in 2012 as an attached bonus feature to the Puss in Boots DVD and Blu-rays. Number 16. But we're not here to talk about DVD extras. What about the real Puss in Boots sequel? Well, it's been in the works as far back as 2012. In November of that year, Guillermo del Toro announced that the film was already in the oven. Number 17. Based on what del Toro said, it was even pretty far along at the time. He said that a few different scripts of the next Puss in Boots had already been completed. Number 18. While his name hasn't been a big part of Puss in Boots' marketing push, Guillermo del Toro did actually consult on Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. He also consulted on the original Puss in Boots and is even credited as executive producer on the movie. Number 19. So how exactly did Guillermo del Toro contribute to the project? Unsurprisingly, he fused the film with his classic dreadful, morbid flavor. According to Joel Crawford, del Toro penned the idea of Puss having gone through 8 of his 9 lives, and the idea was part of The Last Wish's core before Crawford had even signed on. Number 20. From the very beginning, Guillermo del Toro also had every intention of Puss in Boots' next adventure taking him to a very exotic locale. Number 21. While del Toro first broke the news in 2012, Puss in Boots didn't make a blip on the radar until April 2014, when Antonio Banderas announced that he started working on it as well. Number 22. Just a few months later, in June of 2014, the world finally had a title to attach to this mysterious Puss in Boots sequel. It was called Puss in Boots 2: 9 Lives and 40 Thieves. Number 23. Here's the best part. When the title was announced that June, the release window was announced right along with it. At the time, Puss in Boots 2 was set to hit theaters that coming November 2014. Number 24. It seemed too good to be true, and it was. The Puss in Boots sequel ended up getting delayed by a month before DreamWorks completely pulled it off the schedule for the foreseeable future. Number 25. While no official reason was given for the delay, it was likely due to internal restructuring at DreamWorks. A few years later, in 2016, Comcast would end up buying DreamWorks for $3.8 billion. Those massive deals usually take years to work out, so the higher-ups at DreamWorks must have known the buyout was coming, hence no Puss in Boots. Number 26. From there, DreamWorks was completely radio silent about Puss in Boots until November 2018, when they announced Chris Meledandri's involvement. Moving forward, he was the new executive producer of the ever-elusive Puss in Boots sequel, as well as the planned Shrek 5. Number 27. If you don't know of Chris Meledandri, he is the founder and CEO of Illumination Studios, which Comcast also owns. Number 28. Slowly but surely, details about the creatives behind the new Puss in Boots started to trickle out. In February 2019, DreamWorks announced that Bob Persichetti was slated to direct the next movie. Number 29. Persichetti is no stranger to Puss in Boots. He worked on the original film as the head of story. Number 30. He didn't just work behind the scenes though. Persichetti even had a voice role in the first one. Remember that little cat that goes, "Ooh"? Known commonly as Ooh Cat? Yeah, that's him. Number 31. At the same time as Persichetti's news, Latifah Uwa was announced as the producer for the next Puss in Boots. Number 32. Sure, she didn't have any lines in the first movie, not even just ooh, but Uwa did produce the original Puss in Boots as well. Number 33. Things stayed pretty quiet for the next year and a half or so. In fact, the next news of the new Puss in Boots was more background noise. In August 2020, DreamWorks applied for the trademark of the film's title, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Number 34. Sure enough, this new title was officially approved for trademark months later in December of that same year. Number 35. Trademark approvals aren't the most exciting breakthroughs, but things started getting interesting in March 2021. Suddenly, Joel Crawford replaced Bob Persichetti as director, and Mark Swift replaced Latifah Uwa as producer. Number 36. While the creative team got switched up, the Puss in Boots sequel finally had a title locked in. Unsurprisingly, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was announced as the official name of the next movie. Number 37. This big announcement was even accompanied by another release date. This time, the latest Puss in Boots was scheduled to come to theaters on Friday, September 23rd, 2022. Number 38. By that point in the pandemic, we'd all become accustomed to fluid release dates, and we'll get to that. However, there was one rock to keep us all secure. Antonio Banderas was returning for Puss in Boots as the Puss in Boots. Number 39. Of course, he voices the English language version of Puss in Boots, and has since Shrek 2, but Banderas also voices Puss in the two Spanish dubbed versions, one for Spain and the other for Latin America. Number 40. Antonio Banderas has always loved this character, but this time around, the themes of mortality truly resonated with him. He suffered a heart attack in 2017. Thankfully, it wasn't too severe, but it gave him a new lease on life, and a perspective that he would bring into Puss in Boots' newest adventure. Number 41. Whenever Puss in Boots has his own solo adventure, you're bound to find his partner in crime, Kitty Softpaws. And just like the first time around, she's played by Salma Hayek. Number 42. While they were in the first Puss in Boots together, Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas have been friends as far back as 1995, when they starred together in Desperado. Number 43. Despite Banderas and Hayek recording their lines separately, Joel Crawford said that their chemistry was so strong that Hayek could do impressions of Banderas, guessing how he would or did read certain lines. Number 44. When recording, Crawford also encouraged the cast to improvise. Again, having been friends for over 25 years, Hayek would improvise lines as a setup for Banderas to come in, already knowing how he would react. Number 45. For directing Hayek's performance, Joel Crawford wanted to pull from her performance in The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. He wanted her to bring that edge to Kitty Softpaws, as well as the profanities, the spirit of them at least. Number 46. Outside of Crawford's direction, Hayek brought part of that edge with her attitudes towards Perito. Despite how cute he is, Hayek felt that she couldn't trust him, which brought an abrasive element to Kitty's attitude towards the character. Number 47. With Salma Hayek initially challenging the seemingly warm nature of Perito, Crawford feels that she added to the depth of the found family of Puss, Kitty, and Perito. Number 48. We've already seen what Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek can do with Puss in Boots, but what about the new cast members? They actually didn't even get announced until March 2022. Number 49. Puss and Kitty's new sidekick, Perito, or Pero if that's more your flavor, is played by Harvey Guillen. Number 50. You may know him from the TV show What We Do in the Shadows, where he plays Guillermo de la Cruz. Number 51. While Guillen has been a professional actor for years, this is actually the first time that he's had the chance to be in a feature-length animated role. Number 52. Once Guillen signed on as Perito, he was beyond excited to meet Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek. Unfortunately for him, because everyone filmed separately, Guillen never actually got to introduce himself during production. Number 53. And it's not like they would have bumped into each other coming or going from the studio. Due to COVID, Puss in Boots had their cast record remotely. While Guillen recorded his lines in Canada, Banderas recorded from Spain. Number 54. Like Banderas, Guillen does the Spanish dub himself, but only the Latin American version. Number 55. Harvey Guillen is hardly the only newcomer to the Puss in Boots cast. For instance, how about the crime boss of the Three Bears family, Goldilocks? She's played by Florence Pugh. Number 56. Just like Guillen, this is Florence Pugh's first time playing a character in a feature-length animated film. Number 57. The character Goldilocks was actually planned to be in the original Shrek. The writers storyboarded two different jokes. Either she would have knocked on Shrek's door to sell him Girl Scout cookies, or she would have raided Shrek's kitchen, complaining that his food is too hot or too cold. Number 58. If you look carefully, you'll see that Goldie's design incorporates a part of each of the three bears. The big blue eyes like Baby Bear are an obvious one, but she also has mismatched earrings like Mama. By the end of the movie, Goldie even gets a scar over her left eye like Papa. Number 59. While Goldilocks is new to the Shrek world, the three bears did briefly appear in the original Shrek. You can see them locked up by Farquaad's soldiers. Number 60. If only that was their only appearance. Later on in Farquaad's chambers, you can see a bearskin rug with the same pink bow that Mama Bear was wearing in the cage. Number 61. Call it a retcon, call it a continuity error, I don't care. The point is, for Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Mama Bear is alive and well, and she's played by Olivia Colman. Number 62. As for Papa Bear, he's played by Ray Winstone. Number 63. Finally, there's Baby Bear, voiced by Samson Kayo. Number 64. Puss, Kitty, and Perito need to watch out for Goldilocks and the three bears throughout their adventure, but they also need to keep their eyes open for Jack Horner, played by John Mulaney. Number 65. These days, he's going by Big Jack Horner, but we all know him originally from the Old English nursery rhyme as Little Jack Horner. Number 66. Joel Crawford discussed Jack Horner's character extensively with John Mulaney. At one point in the conversation, Mulaney observed a kind of universal truth about Jack Horner that applied to some of the other characters as well. Jack Horner is looking for the wishing star, some external force to fix or replace something broken and missing inside of himself. Number 67. Crawford found Mulaney's insight so poignant that he actually gave Jack Horner some rewrites after Mulaney's feedback. Crawford would repeat this process with each of the actors, incorporating their character notes into the script. Number 68. Okay, so the Three Bears family and Jack Horner are able to give Puss in Boots and friends some trouble, but nothing can be as troubling as the mysterious wolf. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, but the wolf turns out to be death itself, and he's played by Wagner Moura. Number 69. And who better to play the Grim Reaper of the Shrek universe than Moura? He's famous for playing Pablo Escobar in Narcos. Number 70. Death is the first role that Wagner Moura has played in a feature-length animated movie. Number 71. Between Guillermo del Toro's involvement and death itself as a character, you know that Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is taking a darker turn compared to the rest of the Shrek franchise. This was always Crawford's intention. He took del Toro's torch and ran with it. Number 72. For additional inspiration in depicting themes of mortality, Joel Crawford looked to Grimm's fairy tales. Specifically, he latched onto one common threat that a number of Grimm's fairy tales have. They use wolves to tell a cautionary tale. Number 73. Of course, Puss in Boots himself is not originally a Grimm's fairy tale character. Puss in Boots first comes from an old Italian fairy tale from the 1800s, written by Giovanni Straparola. Number 74. When crafting the vibe of The Last Wish, both Joel Crawford and Manuel Mercado also looked to classic spaghetti westerns for inspiration. They wanted to balance larger-than-life characters like Puss in Boots within the classic fairy tale world of Shrek. Number 75. Of all the spaghetti westerns, the good, the bad, and the ugly had particular sway over their creative process. Just like The Last Wish, it's a film about a group of characters all after the same prize, whose paths intersect with each other along the way. Number 76. Sure, Puss in Boots is obviously the good, but Crawford considers Big Jack Horner the bad. He feels like Jack Horner is the closest analog to Lee Van Cleef's character in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Number 77. Crawford and Mercado were also inspired by old samurai movies, specifically ones made by Japanese film legend Akira Kurosawa. Number 78. From the jump, the team wanted to communicate a darker tone to the audience. That's what the first bar scene is all about. When Puss gets cut for the first time, it establishes a sense of fear and high stakes, both for the character and the audience. Number 79. Aside from the writing, Crawford and the team used the movie's art style and animation to tell the story. Crawford likens the new Puss in Boots art style to a more painterly style to drive home the fairy tale vibe. Number 80. Crawford credits DreamWorks president Margie Cohn with pushing him and the team to vary the style up and use all of the possible tools in the animation toolbox. Number 81. Traditionally, DreamWorks' visual MO has been using computer graphics to reach the peaks of photorealism. Art style usually played second fiddle. Now they've been encouraged to throw some 2D animation in there as well. Number 82. When conveying tone, Crawford wanted to use contrast and animation to do the talking. For example, when Puss first fights a giant, the animation is over-the-top, stylized, and fantastical. Crawford likens it to more traditional 2D animation and even compares it to anime. Number 83. So the fights look as bombastic as possible, but for more grounded scenes, like when Puss learns that he's on his last life, or when he's connecting with Kitty Softpaws, the CG comes back into play. Things slow down and the animation is much more smooth and grounded. Number 84. Crawford thinks that the audience will feel the emotional difference in style and tone without necessarily understanding the specific elements used to do it. Number 85. As for the nerdy stuff, as Crawford puts it, that's where Nate Ragg can lend us a hand. He's the production designer on The Last Wish. Number 86. Ragg actually worked on the first Puss in Boots back in 2011, but not as production designer. Back then, he was just one of the artists. Number 87. Crawford actually credits Ragg with leading the charge on how to create the more fairy tale aesthetic for Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Number 88. While Ragg obviously wanted to go for the fairy tale painting vibe, he still wanted it to feel contemporary. He didn't want everything to feel just like an acrylic or oil painting, but clearly a digital piece of art, a blend of old and new. Number 89. This modern blending of art styles probably sounds a lot like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and that's no accident. Into the Spider-Verse was a huge stylistic influence on The Last Wish. Number 90. Funny enough, Bob Persichetti, the original director for the then unnamed Puss in Boots, co-directed Into the Spider-Verse. Number 91. But that's not the only Spider-Verse connection. John Mulaney was also involved, playing Spider-Pig, a far less villainous role than Jack Horner. Number 92. Even 11 years later, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish still uses the same core animation software as the previous one. This time, though, tech is upgraded to allow more complex animation rigs and models. Number 93. For Nate Ragg, the biggest innovations brought about the use of different details. Specifically, he set out to use less detail. He and the team sought to remove detail on characters and environments to make it feel, again, more painterly. Number 94. To do so, Rag and the team had to develop a whole new tool to adjust the detail level and add an irregular edge to any 3D object to give it that fairy tale feel. Number 95. Using this tool, Rag and the team would dial up the irregularity on objects closer to the outside of the frame, creating a more impressionistic feel away from the focused characters you get. Number 96. Aside from characters and objects, this new detailing tool also went to work on everything, from camera work to lighting, lensing effects, depth of field, and more. Number 97. Rag was careful not to go too far with the irregularities though. He didn't want the new stylistic lack of detail to come off as cheap or make the animation itself look half-baked. Number 98. After some trial and error, Rag and the team finally found the perfect balance between photorealism and stylism. Fittingly, Rag referred to it as the Goldilocks zone. Number 99. It was a difficult balance to hit, but Rag says they locked it down by the time they finished the bar scene with Puss and the Wolf. This was actually the first sequence that the animation team worked on. Number 100. Remarkably, according to Rag, much of the animation was done on the animator's home desktop computers, working from home due to COVID. Number 101. Rag was also pushing for one particular direction: less pop culture references. Shrek is rife with them, and putting it generously, many of them are pretty dated. Remember Fiona's Matrix bullet time? Rag was happy to expand on Shrek's fairy tale world without shoehorning jokes that would age like milk. Number 102. Make no mistake though, there are a few references here and there. Jack Horner's magic bag items are little nods to past Disney stories, including Mary Poppins' magic bag, Cinderella's glass slipper, King Triton's trident, and Captain Hook's hook hand. Number 103. After another release delay, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish first premiered at Lincoln Center in New York City on December 12, 2022. Number 104. Just over a week later, The Last Wish dropped into the rest of theaters on December 21st. Number 105. With a runtime of 1 hour and 42 minutes, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is the longest running movie in the Shrek franchise. Number 106. At the time of writing, it's also the most highly rated of the Shrek movies. It's got a 95% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 107. So people love the movie, but did they go and see it? Well, as of January 22nd, 2022, it's hit a worldwide gross of $297.5 million. And again, at time of writing, it's still in theaters, so it can only go up from there. Alright, another 107 facts for you. What did you think of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish? What would you wish for if you got to the star first?
Did you enjoy our video? What facts do you think we missed? Let us know in the comments down below. And while you're there, like and subscribe to see more great videos every week. And remember, Frederator loves you.